Today we've got a crazy Reddit story of somebody messing up by downplaying their long-term heartburn. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, today I messed up by realizing my mute button wasn't muted during a 2-hour stakeholder meeting. This happened 2 hours ago and I'm still hiding under my blanket. I was in a massive all-hands meeting, about 40 people, for a project launch. Usually, I keep my mic hard muted on my headset, but today I was eating lunch, so I was double muted, software mute and headset mute, or so I thought. About 45 minutes in, the project manager was explaining a delay in the timeline. I, thinking I was safe in my cocoon of silence, let out a very loud, very deep sigh and muttered, "Oh my god, just get to the point, nobody cares." The audio didn't just pick it up. Because of the way Teams and Zooms prioritizes active speakers, my face popped up on the main screen for a split second. The silence was deafening. The project manager paused for a solid 5 seconds. Nobody said anything. He just continued. I slowly reached up and tapped my headset. It beeped. Mute on. It had been off the whole time. I have not checked my Slack messages. I'm considering faking my own death and moving to a farm. Maybe OP needs to take their own advice when it comes to those Slack messages and just get to the point, hope that nobody cares. If anything, unless it comes back negatively on OP's shoulders, like there's some HR complaint or the boss was like, "What the heck was that, man?" And also considering the fact that the project manager just continued, I would just try to act like it never happened. I feel like people would understand. Junkhead187 commented, "I was on one with about 300 people I work with, and someone said out loud, unmuted, 'Hang on, I gotta get on this freaking pointless Zoom call.' I felt bad since I agreed. Same with OP's situation." Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories of Redditors severely messing up, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. Our next story is actually an update. Today I messed update. I told my project manager to get to the point in front of 40 people. I finally opened Slack. First of all, thank you to everyone who suggested I fake my own death and move to a farm. I spent last night looking up potato farming tutorials on YouTube, but unfortunately, I have a mortgage, so I had to log in this morning. I promised an update. So here is the damage report. I logged in at 8:59 a.m. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. I hovered over the Slack icon for a solid minute before clicking it. 12 unread messages. Most were from my work friends, sending skull emojis and gifs of people digging graves. But there it was. A direct message from the project manager himself sent at 4:30 p.m. yesterday. The message, "Hey OP, do you have 5 minutes for a quick sync before stand-up?" I almost threw up. Quick sync is corporate speak for execution. I joined the call. No video. I wasn't ready for him to see the fear in my eyes. He joined. Silence for 3 seconds. Then he laughed. A dry, tired laugh. He said, "So, yesterday." I immediately started apologizing. I unleashed a word salad of technical difficulties, bad day, audio glitch, and "I'm so sorry." He cut me off. "Look, honestly, you weren't wrong. I realized after the meeting that I spent 20 minutes explaining a 2-minute delay. I tend to ramble when I'm stressed about deadlines." I stopped breathing. Was this a trap? He continued, "However, let's maybe keep the commentary to the internal monologue next time." My boss was on that call. He thinks it was unprofessional, but I told him you were just frustrated with the audio issues. You owe me one. The result, I'm not fired. I am, however, officially the mute guy. During the stand-up meeting today, when I joined, another coworker typed in the chat, "Careful everyone, the truth teller is here." I have taped a physical piece of cardboard over my mute button. I am never speaking again. I mean, it worked out for OP in the end. I don't really know what OP has to complain about here. Should OP not just be kind of laughing about this one? I mean, if this isn't like the idyllic, "whew, got away with that one" situation, I don't know what is. Hardly Working commented, "Remember how this project manager acted when you get in a position of power and pay it forward to the people below you on the corporate food chain." Our next story is, today I messed up by throwing out a family heirloom. My grandmother is a retired seamstress in her late 70s. She's made me a set of pajamas every year for Christmas since I was a kid. And over the years, she's done custom stockings, quilts, all that. As she's gotten older, that slowed down a lot, so anything handmade from her feels pretty special now. Just over a week ago, I got a package from my grandparents. Inside were some wrapped Christmas gifts, some home-baked goods, and a few breakable Christmas tree decorations. At the bottom of the box was a lumpy pillow. My grandma has sent me old duvet inserts as packing material before, so I assumed it was the same deal. I took out the pillow, unpacked the nice stuff, and when I broke down the box for recycling, I tossed the pillow in the garbage. Fast forward to yesterday, garbage day. My downstairs roommate was being nice and took the bins out to the alley for pickup. Around noon, I start getting frantic texts from my girlfriend asking if I threw out the pillowcase and if the garbage had been picked up yet. Then she tells me the pillow was actually a custom Christmas tree skirt my grandma made for me about 5 years ago. She had been holding on to it, waiting until I was in a more stable place before giving it to me. She put well over 100 hours into making it. Then my mom calls me crying, telling me how long my grandma had saved it for me, how much work went into it, and basically how bad I freaked up, as if I didn't already know. I got off the phone with her and frantically called the city to see if the dump truck had unloaded yet. End up talking to waste disposal manager for the city, who tells me to meet the truck inside the dump so I can try and find it. Luckily, the dump truck driver had stopped to buy a lottery ticket, so dispatch had the time to tell him to hold off on dumping his load. I drove straight to the dump, met up with the driver, and started digging through garbage. I ended up digging through trash for well over an hour looking for it, had like 4 other city employees helping me look. But I actually found it. I was so relieved that I genuinely cried a bit in front of a bunch of garbage men. The pillowcase seems to have protected it well, as it still just smells like my grandparents' wood-burning stove. Not a single stain or anything else that shows the journey it's been through. For some added context, in the last 6 years, I've really turned my life around. Got out of a bad relationship, quit vaping and weed, went to college, got a career, and just bought a house 2 months ago. And with my new house, I'm hosting Christmas for the first time. Basically, I used to let the people around me down a lot, and I really don't want to do that again. I still feel so guilty about throwing it out in the first place. With the time she put in making it and how she was saving it till I was in a more stable position, how much of a slap in the face it would have been to lose it like that. Very thankful it all worked out. I'm certainly glad that OP got the family heirloom back, but I think I'm more happy to hear about all of the workers and the garbage people and everything that joined in and helped make sure that OP could recover it. I feel like if this kind of thing were to happen to me, I would call up and be like, hey, so I realized I accidentally threw away a 100+ hour Christmas tree skirt that my grandma handmade for me. Is there any way I can dig around in the trash and try to find it? And the reply I would get on the other side of the line would be something like, well, we don't usually do stuff like that. Let me check. Then I would be on hold for half an hour, and then I would just get told, sorry, it's gone. Me Folly commented, and now you take a printed picture and a big tray of holiday treats over to that city dump. You make a huge fuss over all the help those workers gave you. You take pictures of them to hide under your tree. This is going to be the family Christmas story for decades for you and for those workers as well. Our next story is, today I messed up by picking my belly button. Let me start off by saying that I'm a pretty hygienic fella. I shower at least once a day, and after the gym as well, so I average more than 7 showers a week. I deodorize and take care of myself, which is what makes this today I messed up so strange, or so I thought. I was on a work call last month, not paying attention and scratching various body parts to alleviate the boredom, when I began picking navel fluff. After about a minute, I felt a decent piece of lint that felt harder than the rest. So I gave it a pull, and it actually hurt coming out. It was a piece of dry skin or scab that I had just pulled off. I didn't think much of it and went along the rest of the day. The following day, as I was getting undressed before showering, I noticed a red stain on my shirt. My belly button had been bleeding. Then, the day after that, after my gym workout, my shirt was wet in the same spot. Wetter than the first day, but not blood. It went like that for a few days, and then I woke up with a stinging sensation in my stomach and belly button area. At this point, I went to the doctor, hooray for public health care, who took a look and then prescribed me some pretty strong antibiotics. Turns out, the navel is not a clean place, and by picking off that slab of dead skin or whatever it was, and then continuing my day, running, sweating, and all that, I had managed to get it infected. For all my claims about cleanliness, apparently I never actually cleaned my belly button properly. Raise your hand if you've ever actually dedicated any time in the shower to your belly button. Don't make me be the only idiot here. And so I had to take 14 days of a pretty strong antibiotic with no drinking, so I got to be designated driver on my wife and I's group friends date night while everyone else drank. Small fries in the larger scale of things, but bummer nonetheless. So, I don't know if OP realizes this, but maybe this is one of those stories they shouldn't have shared on the internet. I feel like OP has just written the start to like a horror story. You know, maybe OP had just plucked a mothering alien from their belly button and that stinging sensation is the eggs they left behind. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some fiction to write. Shadow5825 commented, in 2012, a study came out where they had sampled 60 people's belly buttons for bacteria. They found 2,400 species, with only 10% being shared between multiple people. About 200 species were found in more than 10% of the belly buttons. None of these were found in all belly buttons. Only 8 species are found in more than 70% of the belly buttons. The samples were taken at 2 different conferences with a large range of people. This study made me make sure to wash and rinse my belly button. Our next story is, today I messed up by telling a stranger their baby was a potato. So this morning, I stopped for coffee before work, still half asleep and running on pure delusion. While I'm waiting for my drink, I notice a woman next to me holding a very small, very bundled up baby. I'm normally great with kids, I have 3 myself, so I decide to be friendly. I lean over, smile, and say, "Aw, what a cute little potato." She stares at me like I've just insulted 3 generations of her family, so I try to clarify. Big mistake. I go, "No, not like a bad potato. Like a good potato, an adorable potato, like a premium one?" The barista is choking, trying not to laugh. The mom is looking at me like I'm describing her child as produce in a USDA inspection. At this point, I'm overheating like a laptop in a blanket, so I grab my coffee to flee. Except, it's not my coffee, it's her coffee. She says, "That's mine," in the rudest voice I've ever heard. I apologize, put it back, and in my panic, I try to lighten the mood, so I say, "Sorry, I swear I'm not usually this weird." Why did I say that? Why did I bring attention to the weirdness? Why am I alive? The barista finally calls my drink loudly like she's announcing a fugitive, and I waddle out of there clutching it like a shame trophy. Anyway, somewhere out there is a woman who thinks I compared her baby to a starchy root vegetable and tried to steal her latte. I called my mom when I got in my car. She calls babies potatoes too. Is that not basically all they are at that point? I, for one, am gonna vouch for OP. All babies kind of are potatoes. I guess I could see how you could see it as a derogatory term. I mean, I've heard it that way before. But clearly, when OP's saying, "Oh, what a cute little potato that baby is," they're not really meaning anything derogatory. And is it a lie to say that a lot of babies really do look lumpy potato-shaped? False equivalency commented, "I don't call my baby a bean or a peanut, only a potato. Always potato." A nurse entered a room laughing at me and said she'd heard me calling her a pretty potato. I didn't even remember saying it, but I know I called her a happy potato all the time. That lady is probably just sleep deprived. Sorry you got caught in her sleepless clutches. I think you sound nice. OP replied, "I used to call my son a potato. He's 9 months now and is non-stop in my face, so I now call him Bug/Bugs. I feel like it's just the personality at the time. My mom told me he smelled like spaghetti one time. She's old, I don't know. And he got the name Meatball for a long time." Our next story is, today I messed up by taking salvia. So a few hours ago, me and my brother were just in the car smoking. He had bought some salvia, and I decided I should hit the salvia. After I took it, my body eventually felt like it was bubbling, including my head. 10 minutes later, my vision became blurry, and eventually, I saw nothing, like a blind person. It wasn't just blackness, it was literally nothing, man. Holy freaking crap. But then, every time this man, who I didn't have a chance to see what he looked like, said the word when, I gained my vision back, but only when he said the word when. Jesus, this might sound crazy, but I think I was literally the word when. I gained vision a few times a day, probably, but only for a split second. Every time he said when, it's like I shot outside his mouth and instantly gain and lose my vision. I freaking hated it. I couldn't hear or feel anything either. My senses only came back when the man said the word when. I remember this dude just started singing, and I think I gained my senses like 30 times. Toward the end, he had sung out when, holding it for maybe 7 seconds. The music in the back sounded like some genre I've never heard before, but the longer he said when, the more my presence or whatever felt hot. It felt like weeks until I was actually normal, actually back in my body. But my brother thought I was actually tired and had fallen asleep, but if I recall correctly, he said I only slept for 9 minutes. So I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what any of that OP just wrote was. I am both more curious and horrified at the prospect of salvia. I've heard of it before, at least I know it's hallucinogenic, but I didn't think it would be like that. Consideration No 4522 commented, one time a guy told me he was just a page in a book. He couldn't do anything. He wasn't being read or anything. That was enough to get me to never try it. Femgrit replied, my friend said her dad took salvia and lived 80 years as a leaf on a tree. I was pretty much all set after that. Our next story is, today I messed up by putting 2 lightning strikes next to my username. So I'm a fan of meteorology and lightning storms, so when I was renovating my Twitter account, I put 2 lightning strikes next to my username. I thought nothing of it really. I thought it was cute, if anything. So, when I'm swarmed with a dude calling me a Nazi, I was so confused because I never stood for anything hateful or discriminatory. So then, one of my friends, they come up to me and tell me about the lightning strikes in my username, asking me about the bolts. I thought they were talking about literal bolts, like nuts and bolts, and I shook it off until it hit me. I'm looking up 2 lightning bolts, and I get results for supremacy and neo-Nazism, and my face instantly turns red. I was so freaking embarrassed. I'm still embarrassed. I'm glad someone got my head out of the clouds, because that was so stupid of me. Edit, no, they never taught me about the SS symbol at school. I was a huge sucker for world history, so I definitely would have known if I were taught. I graduated in 2023. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if I'm living under a rock, but if I saw somebody on Twitter that had 2 lightning bolts in their name like that, unless the name that preceded it was literally like Adolf, I probably would think, oh cool, lightning bolts, that's edgy or something, you know? Oh, that person really likes lightning bolts, I wouldn't think anything, nefarious. Basically, I was oblivious to this too. Radio Gaga commented, for the longest time, 88 was the number I added to the end of my usernames if the one I wanted was taken. Pianos have 88 keys and it was my favorite number. I was upset when I found out that it has other connotations. Our next story is, today I messed up by not going to the doctor for my heartburn. Over the past year, I began experiencing pain. It felt like the center of my chest was on fire. Due to the burning sensation and the location, I assumed that it must be what heartburn felt like. I'm in my mid-20s now, my parents have always had Tums on hand, and my best friend often complains of it, so I assumed that it was something that happened with age. I went to the store and bought some antacid chews and pills, and was sure to keep them on hand. If I had something I knew could trigger it, like Chinese food, I would be sure to take some before I went to bed. At first, the chews seemed to help. If I woke up with heartburn, I would take some and sit in an upright position until the pain went away. But after a while, it began to seem like it wasn't really helping. I also noticed it tended to happen in bursts. If I had heartburn, I knew I would be more likely to have it again the next day, so I was careful with food. However, I could go months without having it at all. Last week, I woke up and felt a bit of discomfort going on. I took a tablet and went back to sleep. I woke up an hour later in a lot of pain. I took more chews, I ate saltines, I sat in an upright position. Nothing was helping. It was bad enough that honestly I couldn't even sit still. I realized at that point that heartburn probably was not meant to hurt this much, but honestly I wasn't really thinking at all anymore. It was becoming agony, and all I wanted was the pain to stop. I thankfully actually only live a few minutes away from a hospital, so I drove myself over. It was around 5 in the morning and empty. I told them that it just hurt really bad in the center of my chest, and they got me back right away. At this point, the pain was very bad. I was rating it at an 8 out of 10. I was worried I was being dramatic, and I began throwing up. As they were tending to me, they asked, "Do you have a family history of gallbladder issues?" Oh my god, yes. My sister had hers out a few years ago, my mom had hers out, my aunt had hers out, and my grandma on that side had hers out too. How did I not think of that? They gave me a bunch of meds, then took me to ultrasound, and yep, gallstones, and actually stones stuck in the neck that would not clear, which is why the pain wouldn't stop. A surgeon soon was in to talk to me, and he told me that while they can't tell for sure based on the ultrasound, it was possible I had cholecystitis. He said my gallbladder had to come out no matter what, but that possible diagnosis only increased the urgency of when. I told him I just wanted to get this over with, and a few hours later, I was in my first ever surgery. It was confirmed during the surgery that I indeed had cholecystitis. I spent the night in the hospital for the very first time too. Did you know that you can order chocolate shakes at 7 a.m.? It's been a week now and recovery is going well. I'm happy that I'm never going to experience that horrible heartburn ever again. But I'm also kicking myself for having gallstone attacks for a year without realizing it. I won't ever ignore health issues like that ever again. I imagine for all of you incredibly intelligent, incredibly smart people at home, I don't need to be the one to say that if something feels wrong or doesn't feel like as it should be, go see a doctor. But just in case it hasn't been said, please go see a doctor. I can imagine the last thing you want to play around with, even if it turns out you need just a huge prescription of Prilosec, is the sensation of your heart burning. CW3 commented, "Not a freak up. I had my gallbladder out in my late 20s. It still took me a couple of years after that to realize that the brutal attack of ulcers I had in my late teens was probably my first episode of cholecystitis. Gallstones are usually thought of as a disease of middle-aged people. The mnemonic for med students is fair, fat, female, fertile, and 40. It's easy to dismiss them as something else until you're really painful." OP replied, commenting, "Thank you. I've actually been working on weight loss. I'm down about 15 pounds so far. The nurse told me gallstone attacks can often be triggered by weight loss? Are you kidding me? This is the thanks I get for trying to be healthy?" Our next story is, today I messed up by letting myself into my sister's house to drop off some stuff. So my mom, 59, had arranged to drop off some stuff at my older, 30, sister's house, along with my little sister, 16, who was going to stay with her for the weekend. We were going to drop her off and a few of my older sister's things, then move a cabinet out she didn't want anymore. I guess it wasn't mentioned that I, 23-year-old male, was tagging along to help with the heavy lifting. My mom texted my older sister and said we were an hour away, and she texted a thumbs up back. When we got there, my mom sent me to go get the cabinet out. I knocked on the door, but no one answered, and I heard a lot of excited shouting. I should have checked for a doorbell, but my family has never had a working doorbell growing up, so I didn't really think about it. I simply checked to see if the door was unlocked. It was, and I walked in. My older sister, her wife, and about 8 of her friends were in the middle of a Smash Bros tournament. I had never been to her place before, and there was a really cute dog, Samoyed, in the living room, and so I said, "Oh, puppy," which startled everyone. My sister turned around and everyone immediately started yelling at me and said how creepy it was to just walk in. I just kept apologizing and said, "I thought you knew we were coming." As far as I know, my older sister and I had a pretty good relationship up until now. We played video games together and talked about shows we both watched. If something funny happened, I would text her about it. It's been almost 10 hours. My older sister has blocked my number and removed me on Facebook. She's told my mom that she'll have no contact with me going forward. I know there obviously must be something else going on, but I really wish I'd have thought to ring the doorbell. So, as far as I understand, OP was completely serious about the Smash Bros tournament. This isn't like a euphemism or anything. Like when I thought OP was writing about they walked in without thinking about it and then they walked in to see their sister and their wife and 8 people, I thought OP was going to go into some like graphic description about how like one of them was on a giant spider web and they're in the middle of some crazy intimate thing. Like, I don't know, something ridiculous, not a Smash Bros tournament. Like, oh no, they accidentally walked in on Isabelle up-tilting Donkey Kong. Analysis is Dead commented, wait, hang on. When you say they were having a Smash Bros tournament, that's not a euphemism for something else? They were literally playing a video game and they reacted like that? OP replied, yeah, my family loves video game tournaments. We've hosted Mario Kart tournaments at our place a few times, and we get really into it. One time, one of the guests, 16, put my little brother, 14, into a headlock and lightly threw him against a wall because the guest kept losing. We got him to calm down and have some nachos, checked my brother was okay, then promptly went back to the tournament. Our next story is, today I messed up by falling for an escort. I'm a lonely, nearly 40-year-old divorced man, and for the last 9 months or so, I've been scratching both my social and intimate itches by seeing various escorts every 2 weeks or so. It was going fine, I enjoyed chatting with the ladies I was meeting, then progressing to generally enjoyable hooking up. A few months ago, I met a new lady who I hit it off with. We had a massively similar range of other interests. And for clarity, this wasn't just her pretending to be interested in the same things, as these were things she volunteered first. Similar sense of humor, and the hooking up was pretty dang good. I decided to keep seeing her regularly, but soon realized I was developing the feels. I decided to ask her on a date, making it clear it would be a personal engagement rather than a professional one, which she politely declined, which was fine. It was what I was expecting. We continued seeing each other on a semi-regular basis. A month or two later, I decided I was starting to have difficulty separating my feelings from our time together, so I decided it was time to move on before things got any worse. I met her for a final time, explaining to her why I could no longer see her as a client. This is where things got weird. I expected her, based on our previous interactions, to understand this. Instead, she unexpectedly became quite emotional and said she didn't want to stop seeing me. After more discussion, she asked for my phone and promptly entered her proper name and personal phone number into it. This, I know, is basically breaking rule number 1 for escorts, which is never reveal your personal details because of the issues over safety. She wanted me to get back in touch with her about a week afterwards, as she was aware I had care of my children for a period of time, and to organize an actual date with her. Today was the end of my time with my kids, so I sent her a message asking her when she was available to meet up. She responded saying her boss had found out that she had given me her personal contact info and was mad at her because he believed in doing so she had lost me as a client. She had already effectively lost me as a client before she did this, as I'd made it clear we wouldn't be meeting professionally anymore. She asked if we could delay meeting up and if I would come back to her as a client, which would then get the heat from the boss off her, with the intent that once things had cooled down, we could see each other without him knowing. The cynic in me says that there was never any intention to go out, and that this was all just a desire to keep me as a client, but what confuses that for me is her giving me her personal details. Having been a client of this industry for some time now, I know how seriously these ladies guard their personal details, and handing them over for the sake of trying to retain one semi-regular client seems unlikely. I know also there is the possibility that her boss is coercing her to try and do this, for example, threatening to stop her working as an escort. The unfortunate end of the story is, despite having convinced myself that there might actually be a genuine connection between us, one that could develop into something more, I've had to make the decision to just walk away. It's left me feeling both depressed at my hopes of finally having met someone being dashed, stupid for tricking myself into believing it in the first place, and angry that if this was a genuine connection, the circumstances of our meeting basically ruined any chances. You know, I'm not really an expert in this field, but there is something that's just screaming shady all around here. I don't think OP's cynic side is all too wrong. It feels almost like a tactic to get you doubling down. Like a, oh yes, I'll do anything for you, please keep taking my money, we'll eventually move on to more at some point. Hand-to-Hand Wombat commented, the age-old. Guys, I'm pretty sure this stripper actually likes me. No, I'm serious. Don't be embarrassed, my man. Happens to all of us. Shout out to Raven from Night Moves in Boise, Idaho, circa 2007. You gave me your headband, I gave you my heart, and $300. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy story of how somebody severely messed up, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.